Hey guys, today we want to talk all about taking care of the basics in our finances. Right? But if this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Michael Foley. I'm a certified financial planner and student loan professional, and I'm also the son of two doctors. And lifestyle creep is all about meeting healthcare workers where they're at in their finances, and really hoping to inspire you to live more humble and quiet lives. But let's talk about taking care of the basics. But I came up with an acronym that I think might help you in understanding how we want to take care of the basics in our finances, right? So one thing that my dad always taught me when I hurt my leg or had some sort of bump or bruise, it's like first aid 101 is the RICE method, right? So rest, ice, compression, elevation, right? I barely got through all four of those, right? But the RICE method, let's use that as an acronym to remind us kind of what we want to do to take care of the basics in our finances, okay? So the R is retirement. So we got to make sure that we're taking care of the basics of our retirement. So are you signed up for your employer matching 401k or 403b? Are they giving you free money if you made some sort of contribution to your retirement? That's square one, right? Let's take any free money that they're giving you. If you put a percentage of your income, let's make sure that they're matching that, and taking care of the basics from a retirement standpoint is number one, right? We also want to make sure that we know how much you need to be saving, right? So while you're in training, maybe it's just kind of just putting the basics to get your free money, but we can't really do much else from a budgeting standpoint. But once you become an attending and we have more dispensable income, right? Now it's more of not just, okay, how do we take advantage of the match, but how are we really staying on track for what we want retirement to look like? So that's where it's really important that we're running some initial projections just to have an idea of how much you need to be saving on an annual basis for retirement. So that's square one. We got to know how much we're saving for retirement. Automate it. Don't even look at it. Just set it on automatic savings and have that and move on, right? So that's the R. So what is the I? The I's are the insurances. So we got to take care of the doom and gloom. If there's potential things that could derail us financially, that's a huge thing that we got to take care of. And until we build up enough assets of our own that we can self-insure for some, maybe you lose, you get hurt and you can't work, or if there was a premature death between you and your spouse, the kids would still be taken care of. Until we have that money built up, we need to rely on some of these insurance companies. And so not all insurances are created equal, especially in the disability insurance world. So we really highly recommend that our physician clients or dental clients really do look at true own occupation definitional language disability insurance. So we want to make sure that it's not just, hey, if you get hurt in general, how is that wording in the contract? Does it actually say that if you can't do the material and substantial duties of your occupation, or is it just any occupation, right? Big difference. So can we actually lean on this or not? But it's part of taking care of the basics that we gotta get. Looking at life insurance, we typically recommend about 10 times your projected income or your income. Usually is enough to provide for the family for another decade or decade and a half, living on your same amount of income that they're used to, so that we can at least make sure that the plan continues with or without you in there financially, right? So that's just kind of taking care of the basics. A lot of times it's just some term policies. There are other permanent options that we can look at, but not a part of the basics, right? We got to just get some term policies that are very inexpensive. Check the box, right? Now, C, so we got RIC. C is creditors. So do we owe money to any creditors? Do we owe student loans? Do we owe credit cards? Do we owe any personal loans or car loans? We got to get a game plan in place. So if we have a lot of credit card debt, it's very common that we see a lot of people, maybe have some credit card debt going into their transition to becoming an attending, and that's totally fine. But we got to make sure that we get a plan in place before we start doing anything else. So we got to make sure that we have a plan to get those paid off. And as far as student loans, if you have federal student loans, we could, have a whole nother episode talking about all the different options you have there. But we really got to decide: are you going to pay them off? Are we going to go for the long-term taxable forgiveness, or are we going to pursue one of the tax-free forgiveness programs like the public service loan forgiveness? And then make sure that you have someone helping you, make sure that you're making the most of any of those paths that you have, okay? So that's the C. So what's the last one is E for emergency reserve. So how are we, planning for any sort of unforeseen expense, right? We don't want to lean on credit cards as our backup anymore, right? Sometimes it's a necessity as you're going through residency or going through training. We might have to use that because we don't have the ability to save. But once we start making more money, we need an emergency reserve. And we typically want to see about 4 to 6 months worth of expenses in that. So take however much you're spending typically on a monthly basis, times it by 4 to 6, and that's roughly how much we want. So these are free accounts that you can set up online. And typically right now they're earning over like 4% interest, which is unheard of. And they're free accounts. And so that's something that really you should be considering for that. And we tend to find that clients that do have separation between their savings and their everyday checking account, it tends to stay built up a little bit more too. So that's definitely something that we want to make sure that we have built up. So in summary, we got to take care of the basics by using the RICE method. So R is retirement, I is insurances, C is our creditors, and E is our emergency reserve. Once we take care of those, we've taken care of the basics, and then we can start talking about other things in your planning. So hope this has been helpful for you, and hopefully to continue helping you to live more humbly and more quiet in your own lives. So thanks so much.